Okay, welcome everyone. This is a meeting of the Joliet City Council on Tuesday, December 15th, 2020, with Mayor Bob Odekirk presiding. Brother Ed will give the invocation and he will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance following the prayer.
Holy God, mighty God, God immortal, one, we adore you. We offer our prayer tonight for the many. Let us first remember our mayor and his incredible council who have been so kind to so many people here in Joliet and our surrounding communities in helping us keep the mandates provided for us during this pandemic and keeping us safe and caring for also the needs of our poor. God, please be with our doctors, our dear nurses, hospital care workers, and for our firefighters and police officers, city, county, and state. And may we be a helping hand and reach out to our funeral directors and to all those who grieve the loss of loved ones. Eternal rest grant unto them, O Lord, and let perpetual light shine upon them. I would like to conclude this prayer by reading 4 short passages from sacred scripture to give all of us something to believe in about this holy season of light and waiting as we continue to celebrate Hanukkah and soon Christmas, and how these short readings may relate to each of you in your own personal lives. You are the light of the world, a city set on a hill that cannot be hidden. The people who walked in darkness have seen a great light. Those who dwell in the land of deep darkness, a light has shone. Arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of the Lord has risen upon you. The sun shall no longer go down, nor the moon withdraw itself, for the Lord will be our everlasting light, and your days of sadness shall be ended. May God bless our city, our state, country, and the world. Amen. Amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We'll begin with roll call. Mayor Odekirk.
Here.
Councilwoman Gavin. Here. Councilman Hug.
Here.
Councilman Landy.
Here.
Councilman Morris.
Here.
Councilman Mudrin.
Here.
Councilwoman Quillman.
Here.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Here.
Councilman Turk.
Here.
First on the agenda this evening is approval of the agenda. There is a request to move the public hearing after amendments, change orders, and payments. Are there any other requests for agenda changes?
Mayor, I would ask that we remove the by-park budget and vote on it separately.
I can't hear you.
To remove the by-park portion of the budget and vote on it separately. Bicentennial Park. Okay.
I'm just letting IT know that the mics are a little low, so give me one.
Okay. And Mayor? Yeah. Jim, Krista, the item that we discussed briefly last night about the 2 bond issues,
Yes.
we don't need to separate that or move that up further. It was clarified for me. That actually is simply telling the county not to include that in our levy.
Very
So
good.
it's not an approval of any expenditures whatsoever. It's actually, we don't want the mistake of, so we don't need to move it forward. I got clarification after the meeting.
Good.
Thank you.
So I just wanted to make sure that I heard Councilman Turk correctly. So it's a separate vote to add additional funding to the 2021 budget for Bicentennial Park. Is that correct?
Yeah, a separate vote.
Okay.
Well,
Wait a
There would be a motion. If you
Yeah.
just want to remove Mr. Hawks' recommendation and vote on that separately.
Well,
I don't understand what
Mayor?
he
what, you clear it up, Jim.
Mayor, under item 652, you've got the, under A, you've got the budget with discretionary subsidy of the Rialto and Joliet Prison. And then after that vote, you can entertain the question of whether or not to add back in the expenditure of by park with the use of undesignated fund balance. And then you would vote on item B, approval of the entire budget.
So you don't want it removed from the agenda or separated, you want just a conversation after we vote on it?
Sure, yeah.
Okay,
Okay, wait a minute, I have a question.
yes.
I thought we agreed we were going to wait until after our bond hearing. Otherwise, our bond issues were gonna go down. Isn't that what we agreed on last night?
We did discuss that, Councilwoman, that if we add it back in and draw off of the reserve, you know, whether we change it later in the year is a separate issue, but if we do it up front, it's gonna hurt our bond rating. and
Right.
Drop us to triple-B.
So
So we all have to consider that and make our vote accordingly.
So I thought we were gonna do it later. We kinda took a consensus.
Well, I have further
You're the only one
discussion.
that didn't agree.
Right, I didn't agree. So, I
Right.
mean, I talked to Mr. Gadati today, and according to him, we could adopt the budget with it in. And then if the revenues came up as he's hoping they do in February or March, rather than gaming revenues rather than in July, that we could amend the budget and put that money back into the reserves. And then it should not affect their bond rating.
I thought that's what we agreed to last night. Or did I
We'll
misunderstand?
vote.
Yeah,
We can discuss it and vote on it, right?
yeah.
Because I agree, Councilwoman. I understand, Councilman Turk, what you're saying, the maybe if, but if it doesn't come back,
Right.
our bond rating drops to triple-B.
It just
And that
gives an
costs millions of
opportunity, you
dollars.
don't, somebody, if they're not for it, doesn't have to vote against the whole budget. That's the whole purpose.
Who's not for?
We'll discuss it when we get there.
Okay.
Right.
Start the meeting.
So is there a motion to approve the agenda as written with the following change? Move public hearings, the public hearing this evening, which is Council Memo 649-20, ordinances and resolution associated with North Point's Compass Business Park, after amendments, change orders, and payments, and discuss the Bicentennial Park item for the budget under Council Memo 652-20 separately.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye?
Councilman Landy. Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next on the agenda is citizens to be heard on agenda items. There is no one present to speak this evening under citizens to be heard on agenda items, and no one registered to be called this evening under this section. Next is council committee reports. First is CTIS committee report.
On December 8th, the CTIS committee met virtually. In attendance were Councilman Turk, Councilwoman Gavin, David Brainer, Michael Batis, Chris Sternal, and Detective Jeff German. We had a very light agenda. We discussed the flock agreement, which is the purchase of additional license plate recognition cameras. We currently have 12. We'd like to expand to 27, and 3 of those will be mobile, meaning that if it's necessary to reposition them throughout the city, we will be able to do that. With the current cameras, we discussed that it's caused, it's been great. It's had a major 25% increase in solvability and efficiency, with a reduction in overtime due to that. Will become part of a national database known as the NCIC, which will help even broaden our scope of opportunities. The system will interact with our current Axon and our evidence.com system. The flock company will install, maintain, and download into the city portal The cost annually is $75,600, so for a 3-year contract, it'll be $226,800. The funds are in the CTIS budget, and there was a motion to bring it to the full council for a recommendation to approve. And that's it.
Economic Development Committee report.
The Economic Development Committee met here at City Hall on December 8th, 2020. On the committee and in attendance was myself, Councilman Morris.
Glad you corrected that.
Yes, and Councilman Landy got ahead of the curve on his job. He hadn't been formally appointed, but he did attend and participate. Was not able to vote on the recommendation, so any reference to voting and so unanimous would be 2 votes, but he was an integral part of the discussion. I believe Mr. Hawk went through this yesterday fairly well, so I'm just going to touch on it briefly. It is the only item we considered at the committee meeting was the Tony's Finer Food Project. That will be done at the Kmart at Larkin and Jefferson. That is larger than just a grocery store redevelopment. That's probably about 75% of it. It also includes another junior anchor that they will determine once they do the build out for the remainder of the building that they're not using. They're using 65% of the building, I believe, is the number for Tony's Finer Foods. And then the entire corner will be redeveloped visually and for commerce because they also have plans for an outbuilding. There's room on the south end of the parking lot towards Jefferson, towards the car dealerships. And again, an undisclosed, they haven't signed someone yet, would come in, whether it's a restaurant or a boutique or what have you. They're completely redeveloping a corner that's been challenged since 2016 when it came out completely closed up. It's estimated to be a $20 million redevelopment. We're agreeing to $3.5 million maximum, $3.5 million as a maximum incentive over 20 years maximum. So whichever happens first, if they get $3.5 million in 15 years, like we think they will, that will be the end of the incentive. It is a 50% sales tax incentive. That portion of that property is not in, it's just outside the medical TIF or the St. Joe's TIF as we call it. So it's not in a TIF. So we would have to do it through sales tax. It's a win-win for the residents, for the city budget, for the city development. And after vetting it and discussing it, it was unanimously decided or approved for recommendation to the rest of our colleagues here at the full council to approve it here tonight, and it is on the agenda. That's all we had, correct, Terry? Anything?
That's it.
Herb, nothing? I didn't miss anything, did I?
No.
Okay, then that would be my report, Mayor.
Thank you.
Oh, I'm sorry. Also in attendance was Derek Connolly, our Economic Development Director. My apologies.
Next is Finance Committee report.
The Finance Committee, comprised of Councilwoman Reardon, Councilman Mudger, and myself, met here in the council chambers at 5:30 this evening to review the following items. The first thing on the agenda was renewal of the group health, dental, vision, and life insurance programs. And Pat, would you mind discussing that?
Sure. All good there. The enrollment actually was up a couple percent. The paid claims were down a little more than 12%. That is typical with most groups renewing at this time of the year with the COVID-19 out there. Most people, as we all know, who didn't have to be in the hospital or in a doctor's office were advised not to come in for some time. With that, we came in at the same rate, lower than what we had anticipated.
Pat?
There is going to be
Is your mic working? Can you tap your mic? It is low, if you get him
They're
turned
very
up.
low. I'm texting them and working with them, so I don't.
Sorry to interrupt you, Pat.
we are going to have a bit of an increase, expecting everything would come back this next year. Anybody that put off somewhat of an elective surgery would be having it this next year, but part of that's going to be offset by the drug company that Blue Cross Blue Shield uses as Prime Therapeutic has negotiated some higher discounts / rebates from the drug companies, and we're anticipating just over $400,000 of a rebate there. On the life insurance side, we're at 7.02 per thousand there, that we're in the middle of a 3-year rate guarantee. So there is no change on that part of it.
Thank you.
Ma-
Thanks, Pat.
Mayor, I was just informed there's an issue with the speaker in this room. The live feed is fine, and the speaker in the back section. If you're having a hard time hearing each other, I just ask that you speak louder. I don't know if this front row, if you wanted them to rotate around so you
It's
can
okay,
hear each other
I could hear,
better.
I just didn't know if it was coming in.
Okay, so, and I would just ask Councilman Turk if you could speak a little louder, because
Okay.
at this end, we can't hear you. So
Thank you.
they are working on the
All
issue.
right, thank you.
Okay, we also reviewed the monthly financial report, personnel summary, travel expense report, which was, again, next to nothing. The invoices paid report, didn't find anything out of the ordinary, and recommend their approval this evening. That's it.
Thank you.
Next is Public Safety Committee report.
Public Safety met this evening at 6 o'clock in the Police Community Room. Present was Councilman Hogg, Councilman Landy, and myself, who are the chair. We also was Deputy Chief Mike Batis, and we discussed Taser 7. Our current tasers are just about out of their useful life. And we've talked about this before, and this is part of our less than lethal force program. And all our tasers will be updated, and the conclusion here was the option's much improved version of the current ones that we currently have. It has enhanced effectiveness and serviceability. The equipment's greatly enhanced training regimen for use of force decisions, mental health symptomology, identification, and recognition, hello, it's the mask, of suicidal ideations. It also includes all accompanying cartridges for every taser, which currently come in the form of capital requests on an annual basis. There are software efficiencies that accompany this phase that will create a more efficient environment for the operational side of the Joliet Police Department. We voted on a recommendation that City Council vote on this evening. It's on our agenda. And did I miss anything? That's really the only thing you had.
You nailed it.
Okay. That concludes our report.
Thank you.
Public Service Committee report.
The Public Service Committee met at City Hall yesterday, Monday, at 4:30 PM. Very, very short committee meeting. On the committee in attendance was Councilwoman Gavin, Councilman Morris, and myself. Greg Ruddy was here in place of Jim Trisna, who's out of town. And Greg did a great job, and we did give him a new nickname. He's called the Fake Trisna now. And Allison Swisher was in public, the Utilities Department, Sewer and Water. Very short. We had no items under contracts. We had just a couple of items under change orders, pay estimates, final payments. An electrical, closing out, if you will, of the Elliott Electric contract for the year, for $18,779. Under ordinance and resolutions, as was discussed yesterday by Mr. Hawk, the vaulted sidewalks or the hollow sidewalks downtown underneath businesses, we finalized a policy going forward if they're being or not being used by the city or by the private business. There was a temporary construction easement for the Hollywood Road, the Hobolt Road interchange. Like I said, very routine. And then there was an application for a drive-through at the Gas and Wash Car Wash at 5951 Theodore Street. And that would be for the Dunkin' restaurant, formerly known as Dunkin' Donuts to all of us. And that's pretty much everything that we discussed at the committee meeting. All items were vetted, and all items were unanimously voted on by all three of us to be sent to our colleagues here at the City Council.
You are the last party in the conference. You will hear silence until the conference begins.
Okay, you're not my wife, be quiet. So, with that said, it was unanimous on all items that we recommend to our colleagues here at the full council to pass all the items that are on the agenda tonight. And did I miss anything, folks?
Nope.
Okay. That would be our report, Mayor.
Thank you.
I show no other reports. Under consent agenda, approval of the minutes, it's recommended the minutes of the pre-council meeting held on November 30th, 2020, and the minutes of the council meeting held on December 1st, 2020, stand approved as recorded. Invoices paid report, it's recommended this report be received and placed on file. Position vacancies, it's recommended the city manager be authorized to fill one director of public works position,
Line muted.
one part-time custodian position in the Public Works Department, and one maintenance worker position in the Public Works Department, and any subsequent vacancies which may occur with these positions. Council Memo 642-20, renewal of group health, dental, vision, and life insurance programs. It's recommended the city manager be authorized to renew the Blue Cross Blue Shield of Illinois PPO medical, prescription, drug, dental, and vision insurance plan for all eligible employees and retirees for plan year 2021. Council Memo 643-20, regular payroll for September 11th through September 24th, 2020, $3,394,504.56. Council Memo 644-20, regular payroll for September 25th through October 8th, 2020, $3,362,563.63. Council Memo 645-20, regular payroll for October 9th through October 22nd, 2020, $3,429,207.38. It's recommended said regular payrolls be approved. Is there a motion to approve said consent agenda items?
So moved.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Landy? Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin? Motion carried. Under licenses and permit applications, Council Memo 647-20, an application for a drive-through permit for a gas and wash car wash at 5951 Theodore Street. It's recommended the drive-through permit be approved.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Landy? Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin? Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Motion carried. The public hearing is moved to after amendments, change orders, and payments. So moving on to, under ordinances, Council Memo 651-20, an ordinance accepting a temporary construction easement for 1951 Hollywood Road for the Hobolt Road Interchange Modification and Roadway Reconstruction Project. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin? Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Landy? Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 652-20, an ordinance approving the 2021 annual budget for the city of Joliet. There will be 3 separate votes for this section. So the first is, we'll call it 652-20A, is an ordinance to include the 2021 annual budget for the city of Joliet, a discretionary subsidy for the Will County Metropolitan Exposition and Auditorium Authority and for the Joliet Prison. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
I've been advised to abstain.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin, Councilman Hug,
No.
Councilman Landy,
I'll abstain, I don't know enough about it.
Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried 5-1, 2 abstentions. So next is the discussion on the, per the request of Councilman Turk regarding the funding for Bicentennial Park.
Mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I just like to see it put back into the budget. You know, I don't think it's as easy as turning on a faucet for water and, you know, turning it off and turning it back on to to restart things at the park. This is their planning time over at the park to book stuff for the spring and summer. I know the Park District is doing that in anticipation of things being better, and hopefully they will be. And, you know, the people that do their planning right now, the staff over there, they have to maintain it. And also, you know, when the park is open and there's functions that, you know, they're putting in 12 to 14 hours a day. You know, the concerts on the hill ends at 8:30 or 9. They're not getting out of there till 11 o'clock. And so for that reason, if this doesn't happen, I didn't want to vote against the whole budget. That's why I wanted to make my stand on this. So I would be in favor of putting the funding into the total budget. Do I need a motion for that, or?
Well, Mayor, we had a discussion, lengthy discussion yesterday about, we weren't going to close Bicentennial Park. And Councilman Reardon said it'd be $93,000 that we'd have to come up with later, not the 400,000, since we already have absorbed the 4 employees over here at City Hall. So my intent was never to close by park. It was just temporary because, as I said last night, you know, Broadway's closed, the Rialto's closed, but they're still planning on things. And now that the vaccine is out there, I don't see the problem that we amend our budget later down the road so that we will not hurt our bond rating right now. So, I mean, I'm all in favor of keeping by park and moving forward, but I don't see that we have to do it now because you can't have any shows there now anyway. So I would suggest that we just amend the budget later and give our word to do that at 93,000 later down the road. As Mr. Gadati explained last night, doesn't matter how much it is, any amount of money at this time would hurt our bond rating. And we certainly don't want to do that because if we have to have a bond coming up, our interest rates will be much higher.
Mayor? Yeah. I would just like to clarify, maybe put a perspective on it. Actually, if you want to call it technically, it is still in the budget, Councilman Turk. It's just not funded in the budget. Right. So the positions related to By Park and By Park itself has not been removed from the budget. It's just been given zero funding. Now, if you want to put funding in the budget this year for those, we still have to fill the other 4 spots that they are going to temporarily fill, and that's what would cost us $400,000 more. It's more than 98,000, it's 400,000.
Right.
And we'd have to show where that money's coming from to fund the additional 430,000. And if it comes out of the reserve, it's going to shoot our bond rating down to a triple B. And we've got millions of dollars in bonds that are going to be let out over the next couple of years, several years, because of the water project. And it could cost us tens of millions of dollars in interest over the next 20 years.
Yeah, I don't know what the figure is, but I don't think we're going to be issuing any bonds until late 2021.
But our bond rating will be triple B at that point.
What if the revenues come back up and we amend the budget to put that back into reserves?
Because we would show non-reserve money, the new revenues you're referring to. If we do bounce back quicker, then we would do, as the councilwoman had pointed out, a budget amendment saying, look, we have an additional 2 or 3 or 400,000. We're going to use that revenue, but we're not taking it out of the reserve.
Wow.
You know, one compromise, Mike, would be, because I think it's clear, and someone could correct me, I think anyone here wants to close the park or thinks that we are going to close the park for more than a temporary measure until society kicks back in. But instead of just saying you're taking from reserves, why don't you find money somewhere else in the budget, if you can, to subsidize this?
Could do
so
that.
you don't hurt our bond rating, but you get what you want at the same time.
Yeah, that's a compromise. You know, and I don't know how logistically that's going to work with taking those employees. Some of them work and put them over in some other department in the city when they don't have the expertise to do certain things. I mean, I don't know what departments the city manager is planning on putting them into, but some just won't fit. So I don't know how it's going to work out. But yeah, we could look at other monies in there and make, I don't know.
We don't have a lot of discretionary in there. The 200,000 that's in the budget for the park, we are contractually, under ordinance, for another 2 years, this year and next, required to give that money. So you've got the Rialto money to shift over if you'd like.
Yes, Jim.
The budget is a very fluid document. you can look at it on a monthly basis from a revenue standpoint. And if the goal is to add back funding, Mr. Gadati can report on a monthly basis how our revenues are doing. And any month, you can make that amendment. So, you know, it could be January, could be February, could be March, that you can add the funding back in there. My goal with having all of that staff still working in the city is I don't want to lose them to another job someplace else, so that they can come back as soon as possible when we find the funding and allocate it in that area. I am sure that we can find duties and responsibilities compatible with their skill set and still be contributors to other areas. And quite frankly, I'll probably have them still looking over their shoulder, doing some work for Pine Park at the same time that they're working in other areas.
So are we saying that if the only way this would affect our bond rating is if this was put into the budget and voted on tonight, it wouldn't affect the bond rating
No,
if it happens next month or the month after?
No, because what I'm saying is we need a corresponding revenue source to balance that expenditure. So, you know, if we get below 8% in terms of COVID, then the state's going to open up the casinos. And we'll see, and we've only budgeted 50% right now. And so that means we're anticipating waiting till July before they're at 100%. So if we get anything less than 100% before July, that's more income than we anticipated.
Sure.
Mayor? Mike, or Councilman Turk, what I would tell you is the way the bond rating agencies work, they're not just looking at the imbalance itself, but the willingness of this presiding body and the corresponding administration to pass an unbalanced budget. The fact that we cross our fingers and hope that come March or June, it balances out, doesn't change the fact that we were willing as a body to pass an unbalanced budget. Right now, we have to show by law how it's going to be paid. We can change that later. And if we say it's going to be paid from reserve, we've shown that as a body, we're showing slight irresponsibility, according to Wall Street, whether we love them or hate them, right? That we're showing slight irresponsibility in the fact that we're willing to go with an unbalanced budget. Mm-hmm. And I just think that the repercussions of dropping to a BBB, with the bonds that will be, that's going to last a couple of years. The earliest you can overcome that, if that happens to us, is in the next budget process. And maybe they say, no, we want one more year after that to bring you back up to a AA. We'll be letting millions of dollars of bonds for the water project, particularly, and certainly other city business, that could cost us over 20 or 30 years, tens of millions of dollars in extra interest.
Yeah, I think, this is the last budget I'll be voting on anyway, but I think in the future, if we went back if we would have had the budget maybe like on Thursday or Friday to look it over the weekend and call and ask questions, and I think everybody was pretty shocked when they said about By Park. I'm their liaison, so I get the calls.
Right.
And so I wanted to make the best pitch I could for it.
I wouldn't disagree with you.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was something that, like you said, was a surprise.
Yeah, well, I talked to Jim, so I had a kind of an idea, but I don't know if I say it was a surprise. It's because of COVID. Every theater in the country, I think, is closed right now, and sports venues and everything else. So I think it's horrible, but I do think we're at the tail end of this. But, I don't think there's anything unique about By Park as opposed to Allstate Arena or the Rialto or anything else, other than it's free for the public.
Right.
You can't have 10 or more people gather, as we all know. So until those restrictions are lifted, there's not much that can happen anyways.
Okay. As we own the park.
Yes.
I just want to say, I wasn't joking when I said that last night about being on the finance committee. And of course we are, we're watching the revenue and the percentages every single month. And we are in the position that we really can watch it closely and not let it slip through the cracks and really present it when the time is right. I too do not want to see Bicentennial Park close.
Yeah.
And I've had plenty of phone calls and emails and such. So I really do want us to keep a close eye on it, and we have that ability to do it.
Okay. Okay,
Are you making a motion or?
no,
Okay.
So based on the discussion, next would be in order to vote on an ordinance approving the 2021 annual budget for the city of Joliet. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
aye,
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy, Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is Council Memo 653-20, which is ordinances for the levy and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020, and ending December 31st, 2020, in and for the 1996 Joliet Special Service Area Number 14, Joliet City Center, and 2009 Joliet Special Service Area Number 7, Park Hill Subdivision. It's recommended said ordinances be adopted.
so moved,
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
aye,
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy, Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 654-20 are ordinances for the levying and assessment of taxes for the fiscal year beginning January 1st, 2020 and ending December 31st, 2020 in and for the city of Joliet, including the Joliet Public Library.
so moved,
Second.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Turk,
aye,
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 655-20, an ordinance abating the taxes heretofore levied for the year 2020 to pay debt service on $3,665,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2020A, and $6,535,000 general obligation bonds, Series 2020B of the City of Joliet, Will and Kendall County, Illinois. It's recommended said ordinance be adopted.
So moved.
second,
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk.
aye,
Motion carried. Under resolutions, Council Memo 657-20, a resolution adopting a policy for the maintenance and repair of vaulted sidewalks. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy, Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
aye,
Councilwoman Gavin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 658-20, a resolution authorizing the Joliet Police Department to proceed with acts on services. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So moved.
Second.
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Landy,
Aye.
Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Coleman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
aye,
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug.
Aye.
Motion carried. Council Memo 659-20, resolution authorizing execution of an incentive agreement with Tony's Finer Foods Enterprise. It's recommended said resolution be adopted.
So
so,
moved.
second,
Been
Krista,
motioned.
before you start, a couple things. I'd like to thank staff, Derek Conley. Special thanks to Jim Greenan, former employee. Probably no one would realize this, but the phone call first came to Jim Greenan from the Tony's representatives about coming to Joliet. So I have been meeting with them throughout the summer, as with our staff, and they work this out. This is a great addition to the city. It's been a blighted corner for some time. Jim, if you recall, the Kmart property couldn't be marketed for the first couple of years. It was vacant. So I think we all took a black eye for that, but there was very little the city could do. But I'm very happy with this, with what's been brought forward. Councilman Hug, as you said, I think the incentives are fair and in line with what we've done before. And I just want to thank staff and thank Tony's for their investment in Joliet. And then also, one final thing. It's kind of ironic that this would be on the agenda tonight with the public hearing. If you remember back in April, many of us in the council were accused or criticized for holding the public hearing back then, or continue operations with the global pandemic. And I made the statement then and throughout the summer that the city of Joliet was not going to shut down, that we couldn't shut down. So again, I want to thank staff and the people here who made Tony's happen, but then take the time to thank all our employees who have worked through the pandemic, our first responders, the dispatchers, the people at City Hall. We couldn't afford to take the summer off and not give the people of Joliet the services that they need. And we've done it, and on a different, we see the first responders, we see the street workers, and we know the water workers are out there. But this is staff, again, this didn't come together in the last month or two. This took about 6 months to put together. So those are my comments, but thank you to Tony's and everybody involved.
His motion seconded to approve Council Memo 659-20, which is a resolution authorizing execution of an incentive agreement with Tony's Finer Foods Enterprise. Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin?
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman?
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin?
Aye.
Councilman Hug?
Aye.
Councilman Landy? Motion carried. Under bids and contracts, award of contracts, Council Memo 661-20, contract for LPR services to Flock in the amount of $226,800. Council Memo 662-20, award of contract for the Police Department door system to Videotech in the amount of $78,900. And Council Memo 663-20, approval of additional hourly services requests for fee authorization, proposed Rock Run Crossing Public-Private Partnership. It's recommended Council Memos 661-20 through 663-20 be approved.
So moved.
Been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilman Mudrin,
Aye.
Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy, Councilman Morris.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next is amendments, change orders, and payments. Council Memo 665-20, change order number 1 for the 2020 Utilities Electrical Maintenance Service Agreement to Elliott Electric in the amount of $18,779.54. Council Memo 666-20, change order number 1 to Information Technology Professional Services. Council Memo 667-20, change order number 10 for the 2018 Sanitary Sewer Rehabilitation Program to Michaels Corporation. It's recommended Council Memo 665-20 through 667-20 be approved.
So moved.
Second?
It's been motioned and seconded to approve. Councilwoman Quillman,
Aye.
Councilwoman Reardon,
Aye.
Councilman Turk,
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin,
Aye.
Councilman Hug,
Aye.
Councilman Landy, Councilman Morris,
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin.
Aye.
Motion carried. Next on the agenda will be the public hearing. This is item number 649-20. This public hearing includes ordinances.
Conference will automatically end in 5 minutes.
Ordinances and resolution associated with North Point's Compass Business Park. Resolution approving the annexation and development agreement for approximately 1,360 acres with Eastgate Logistics Park Chicago LLC for Compass Business Park, including an ordinance approving the zoning reclassification of 103 acres generally located on the south side of Green Road and west of Ridge Road from R1B Single Family Residential and R4 Multifamily Residential to I1 Light Industrial Zoning, An ordinance approving the zoning reclassification of approximately 1,257 acres of various parcels generally located south of Green Road, east of Chicago Road, north of Huff Road, and west of Ridge Road from A1 unincorporated Will County Agricultural to I1 Light Industrial Zoning District. An ordinance approving a special use permit to allow carting, express, and hauling establishments, truck terminals, limited, however, to no more than 40 total acres of the approximately 80 acres generally located on Rowell Road, south of Brown Road, and ordinances regarding the annexation and zoning of certain parcels and partial fulfillment of the annexation and development agreement with Eastgate Logistics Park Chicago LLC. This is a public hearing, so comments would be in order.
It's a public hearing. We're going to start the public comments. Before we do, there's a legal distinction that needs to be made. Our attorneys are going to do that. Okay, hi, everyone. We are ready to start the public hearing. All of the evidence and testimony will be presented under oath. The petitioner will be allowed to present first. After the petitioner is completed, interested parties will be allowed to present evidence and/or cross-examine the petitioner. They will be given a reasonable amount of time to do so. As this hearing is legislative in nature and not administrative, an interested party shall be defined as someone who either owns property within 600 feet of the proposed development site or a member or official representative of an affected governmental body. The remainder of those who wish to be heard shall be classified as public speakers. Interested parties will present first, starting with those who are here in person. Go ahead. Followed by those who are on the call list. Once the interested parties have completed, then the public speakers will be heard, once again, starting with public speakers who are here in person, then people who signed up to be called. These individuals are public speakers, so the applicable rules shall be in effect. Speakers should try to address all comments to the council as a whole, not to any individual member. Repetitive comments are discouraged. Total comment time for any one person is 4 minutes. No speaker shall engage in a debate or make direct threats or personal attacks or be uncivil or abusive, and the presiding officer may limit irrelevant, immaterial, or inappropriate comments or statements. The petitioner is here to begin their presentation.
Thanks, Chris. Thank you, Mayor and City Council. My name is Tom Osterberger. I'm one of the attorneys for the petitioner. Before you tonight is a proposed annexation agreement negotiated by the city and acceptable to the petitioner. Nearly 2 weeks ago, I was with the petitioner. We had a public hearing in front of the Planning Commission. And as your staff reports show, and as the annexation agreement reflects, that recommendation for approval on the I-1 zoning was recommended by Planning Commission. Nearly a week ago, we were in front of the Zoning Board of Appeals, also for a public hearing. The Zoning Board of Appeals approved the variance and recommended approval of the special use permit mentioned previously for the cartage truck terminal. You have the agreement. You have all the staff reports. There's not any reason why we should repeat that, petitioner should repeat that. You have plenty of public that wants to speak tonight. But Mr. George is here for the petitioner in person, and we have all of our consultants here virtually to answer any questions. So obviously we'll jump in as you direct, consistent with the comments made by staff.
Thank you.
Thank you.
So for the record, I wanted to let you know that we did receive various email comments, and they were forwarded to Mayor and Council prior to the meeting. In addition to that, we have several people that are here that are interested parties, so we'll begin with them. Okay. And just know we will be swearing them in as they come in individually.
So and just so I'm clear, the interested parties in person speak first, interested parties on the phone speak second, then we'll open it up to the general public in person, and then the general public on the phone. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay, thank you.
So first is Matt Robbins. do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good evening. My name is Matt Robbins, and I'm with Jackson Township. We all have lives outside of this room. Some of us are parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, and most work another job. I think we all want to surround ourselves around good people. We teach our kids in school today not to bully other smaller kids. Well, how do we explain this to our kids? That because someone is bigger, they can take what they want and leave the problems to the smaller community? To me, that sounds like a bully. This whole project will be in Jackson Township. North Point has still yet to present this to the Jackson Township Board 8 months after they were asked to and said they would. North Point says they have no plan B if the bridge isn't built. I've heard from council members, no bridge, no building permits. So as I see it, at this time, you are ultimately annexing farm ground that is taxed agricultural. The city will only get taxes on ag, not industrial, until the land is built and an occupancy permit is issued. If North Point loses the lawsuit for the bridge, that property remains ag, and the city will have to maintain the roads that butt up to the property annex. As you know, once you annex property, anything that touches that municipality must be maintained by that new municipality. This could end up costing the city a lot of money for protection, maintenance, and repair of these roads. Is this just a land grab? Because as of right now, they are no closer to starting a bridge than they were 3 years ago in Elwood. North Point and Elwood are still in court over said bridge. Why wouldn't you wait until that is decided or the other lawsuits before moving forward? Because again, no bridge, no building permits. Or is there something we aren't being told? It seems fishy. I want to make sure everyone understands, if Joliet doesn't do it, no one will. Elwood doesn't want it, Manhattan doesn't want it, Wilmington has Medewan and the cemetery between them to the south, and Shanahan has Centerpoint and the Arsenal between them to the east. Joliet, you hold all the cards for this, and you can stop it by saying no. The big question I have is, how is North Point going to get to the bridge when, according to their plans, they will need to use 1.5 miles of road that is in the village of Elwood? That is 2 lanes, rated at 12 tons, and dumps into another village of Elwood road. The road in the map North Point intends to use has already been decided in a court of law to be in the village of Elwood, along with 300 feet of land to the south of this road. Almost every road leading in and out of this development is governed by Jackson Township or Elwood. North Point indicates 5,000 more trucks on interstates and 10,000 more cars on local roads. The local interstates and roads cannot handle this, and I think we can all agree this needs to be addressed and repaired before something of this magnitude is considered. How much money do you think the state will have for road improvements after this pandemic? The so-called closed loop cannot be accomplished by North Point or the city without working with local communities and the state. If you think otherwise, it's inaccurate. We all need to work together for a better tomorrow and not let companies like North Point pit communities against each other. This pandemic has shown us to buy local, to support local, because if we don't, there'll be no more small businesses. North Point and warehousing is the furthest from this. This decision will change the landscape of Will County forever. We're asking Joliet to be a good neighbor and work with us. Would you be upset if someone is putting this in your backyard and you didn't have a say? This is how we feel. Please vote no. Thank you.
Thank you.
Katie Hunt. Katie, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Good evening, all. My name is Katie Hunt. I'm a Jackson Township clerk, and I've taught here in Joliet for 15 years. Am I able to ask questions over North Point?
Yes.
And we'll do this. Okay. So there's a couple of things that I think have been misconstrued in some of the comments that have been said. North Point and Bissell are suing the village of Elwood for a combined $75 million. So North Point suing for $50 million and Bissell suing for $25 million. I think a lot of people think that Elwood is suing North Point so they stop the bridge, when in fact North Point is suing Elwood to force the bridge. So by passing this project, if you so decide, you become part and parcel to a lawsuit that's suing another municipality. So what kind of precedent does that set when a municipality sues the municipality to force a project. Okay, a question I have is, does North Point have an alternate location for a bridge if they're unable to secure the current location?
You want to step forward? Might have to step aside, let me answer.
Me? Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
So help me God. No.
Okay, my concern is I obviously represent Jackson Township, and if there is no alternate location for a bridge, which I suspect there's not, what position does the city of Joliet put themselves in by approving this project without knowing all of the parts of it and not knowing what could possibly happen if it doesn't work out? My next question kind of goes along with what Mr. Robbins said. What is your plan for connecting said bridge, if it does get passed, to the 1.5 miles of, or through the 1.5 miles of Mississippi Avenue within the village of Elwood? Because the bridge would end, and then there's 1.5 miles that you would have to get through to attach to your project. So what is the plan to attach to that?
We don't have a plan for that at this time.
So another plan that they don't have. I believe that is all my questions. Thank you very much. So I really believe that as elected officials, it is your duty, and my duty as well, to make sure you're looking at all potential aspects of a project, benefits, risks. You can't do that with all the without all of the information. And if you do have the information, it should be of public record. As Mr. George has indicated, you do not have all of the information that would be necessary to approve this project. One of the things I hear a lot too is that the closed loop system will take traffic off of the local roads. I think that is a misconception. The only traffic that bridge would serve is the traffic generated by the park. It would do nothing to alleviate any existing traffic. The bridge goes to the middle of a cornfield. So if North Point Compass Business Park is not built, there's no need for a bridge. I think a lot of people think that building that bridge is going to take care of current traffic, but it only really takes care of the traffic that it generates. I always ask myself, what is the motivation? Being a teacher, I need to know why kids are doing what they're doing. So I ask, why is North Point doing this? The answer is simple, and that's money. I wonder how much North Point would be projected to make off of this project. City council members, please don't forget what the main reason is for North Point being here. That's to make money for themselves, for their ownership, which some of the principals who are presenting here are part owners of the company, to my knowledge. They make money for themselves, not for the residents, not for the school districts, not for the parks, not for the libraries, for themselves. They are salesmen, and they're really good at making it seem like having a bike path through an intermodal would outweigh the negative impacts the project would have on the quality of life for residents. So I'm asking of you to really ask yourself, is this the right project for our community? The importance of the greater community has never been illustrated more than in this pandemic. We hear from everyone, wear your masks not for you, but for the other person. It's not always about protecting you, it's about protecting your neighbors. So this decision cannot just be made with Joliet in mind. You have a responsibility to this area, not just Joliet as an elected official. If anything that's been said here tonight makes you question something, vote no. If you've never been down to the footprint of this project, then you truly don't understand it, vote no. I ask you to seriously consider the information brought before you tonight and ask if this is the best decision for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Jenko?
I do. Do you have a hand up? Good evening. I'm Doug Jenko. I'm the village president of Elwood. I like to call the mayor village presidents, not a president. I would first like to start out to thank Mayor Odekirk setting our record straight last night. It was not Elwood that separated these parcels out there. was the federal government, okay? Another thing, to your attorney, which we have right here, the North Point owns property where I could throw a rock across the street and hit the Baywood Tall Grass. It's in the village of Elwood. It's not this project, okay? Just want to make that clear. This handout that I'm handing out shows Walter Strawn Road. Walter Strawn Road is an access point along with where they want to build a bridge. What I'm showing you there is what the Abe Lincoln National Cemetery would like to do. They brought this to the village. We think it was a great idea. They want to put an exit out of the cemetery into onto Walter Strawn. That's their plan. I know that we talked with them. I don't know that for sure that anybody from North Point talked to them recently about this. Mr. George says he has. I don't know. Your planning and zoning board. They did exactly what our planning and zoning board did. Approved this project like it's no tomorrow. One thing that your planning and zoning board did was included the village of Elwood roads. I don't think you guys would approve anything that attached Rockdale roads through Joliet to Crest Hill. Okay? That's how I feel about it. I'm not here to tell you guys how to run your city, but I don't want your city putting any roads in Elwood. There's a 1.5 mile stretch there, not including the bridge. I represent approximately 2,400 people. They are against the bridge. And again, I'm not telling you what to do with your annexation, but I think you should all vote no until they figure out a plan B. You just heard them. They have none. And how do you approve something where they don't have an end to the meeting? What you guys think about that? That's your legacy. It's your guys' legacy that you're building off of. And I'd also like to ask Mr. Landy if he could abstain from voting. I know you've been on the council for 2 weeks. You're a very busy man. This is a very complex situation here. And I'd also like to thank Ms. Coleman for the work she does at the hospital. First responder, you should be applauded, man. Other than that, please let your conscience be your guide. Don't let the pocketbook be your guide. They don't have an end plan. I don't know how you can go with it. Thank you.
Mayor, I have a question. Thank you. Because this has come up a little bit lately. The bridge that you're, and I know we talked about the bridge privately months ago.
Yes.
That, and legal, correct me if I'm wrong, that was a concession made by North Point that the city council essentially is forcing them to do to keep the trucks off of local roads. Is your position or Elwood's position that you would rather, because they're gonna spend millions of dollars on this bridge, you'd rather them not build the bridge, but let the traffic spill out like Centerpoint does all over?
First of all, the bridge, which we really can't talk too much about it because of we're being sued. But the bridge will only take care of one person, and that's Compass Business Park. That's all you're worried about. There's going to be 2,500 trucks a day going from the rail yard over the imaginary bridge with the load, coming back 2,500 trucks back to the rail yard. Okay? Them aren't the trucks that are going on 53 or 55. Those are the trucks that are just hauling containers. 5,000 trips a day. That's not counting the semis. So I think we get an accurate count from these guys, because apparently, and you used the term last night, liar, we're not getting the truth from them.
Well, let's be honest though about the situation. And again, I'm gonna gauge you because you're an elected official. In Elwood, the Burlington Northern Yard is doubling their operation. The trucks that you're speaking of are coming from Burlington Northern and Elwood, most of them. that are gonna be in and out over the bridge in the North Point. North Point can speak for themselves. I believe the reason why that area became so desirable, because it was a private purchase between North Point and the farmers who own the land. City of Elwood, or Village of Elwood, City of Joliet, Manhattan had nothing to do with this.
Correct.
So, without North Point, those trucks aren't going away, they're still coming. Now they will be on Route 53 or other local roads. So, I see North Point as being the obvious answer to what's gonna happen in Elwood at the Burlington Northern Yard, where I think the estimate is 5 million more trucks a year coming into our area because of the additions that they're making at their yard. And I think that's been lost in a lot of this conversation, is if North Point is gonna bring the trucks, and the trucks are coming, North Point's gonna service the trucks and get the containers out of the Burlington Northern Yard into their facility and then out to the entire Midwest.
You're correct. I'm not here to criticize you on your plan for the North Point. I'm here for the bridge. Your planning and zoning board approved a plan to put a bridge, to agree to zone this in the Village of Elwood property. That's my complaint. I don't care what you guys do on that farmland. I'm worried about the Village of Elwood. So where those trucks go from North Point, he doesn't have another plan B. He's got to have something. That doesn't make sense. Why would you put something 11 miles away from a highway and not have a plan B? That's not good business. A lot of you are business people. You would have a plan B. And you would tell people a plan B. Unless they told you guys something. They never had a plan B, or C, or D. That's my stand on it. I mean, you guys said it, it's in writing, no bridge, no project. How can you vote yes on something that is an imaginary bridge right now? Unless it's on the paper. That's really all I got.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ron Schmidt.
I'm also a trustee in Elwood. I'm also representing the Memorial Squad at Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery. I'm assistant chaplain out there, been out there for many, many services. The bridge would definitely, people don't think about the effects of the truck. We see them every day. I live right there off 53. I mean, I can't, my bedroom's on the highway almost. So they put up a sign and say no brake jacking. You think that works? I don't think so. But anyway, a bridge would definitely interfere with some of our services going on. And I don't think it's fair to any veteran to have to put up with the truck traffic going across the so-called bridge. And I'm 100% against it. And I just wish that we're all sitting in a big chair. You're sitting in a big chair. Think about what you're supposed to represent. You're supposed to represent the people. And I think towns should work together instead of fight. Why? We got enough fighting going on all over the world without our towns that are adjacent to each other. We should be helping one another. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next is Julie Friebel.
What's her name?
Julie. Good evening. My name is Julie Fribley. I'm the village administrator for the Village of Elwood, and I'm participating in this hearing in that capacity. The Village of Elwood opposes the annexation and development agreement for Compass Business Park, including the rezoning of the property therein and granting of the special use permit to the developer. The Village of Elwood has a vested interest in this agreement and has standing in this hearing. The 1,360 acres annexed abuts the Village of Elwood. The contemplated rezoning of the land therein and the contemplated special use permit will cause a significant increase of heavy truck traffic in and around our village. This will have an impact on the health, welfare, and finances of the village and of all of our residents. In the annexation and Development Agreement, Section 3A, Initial Minimum Road Construction Improvements, specifically refers to Elwood roads being impacted. It states the developer shall construct a bridge over Union Pacific Railroad and Illinois Route 53 in the location of Walter Strong Drive and Ira Morgan Street. The proposed bridge that is crucial to this agreement is located within the Village of Elwood and is currently subject to litigation with the village. The bridge is proposed to be located within the Village of Elwood, and neither an official from Joliet nor a representative from Eastgate has contacted the village to discuss. This is a disgraceful way to conduct business. I received a letter dated August 27, 2020 from Glenn D. Matter, Chief Cemetery Development and Improvement Service Department of the Veteran Affairs regarding the proposed bridge over State Highway 153 onto Walter Strong Drive. In his letter, he noted that the cemetery services over 412 veterans in the Chicago area. Since opening in 1999, Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery has buried over 58,000 veterans and family members, and expects to continue to provide this service for the next 100 years and to treat our veterans with dignity, honor, and respect. He formally expressed his concern about a potential new bridge crossing over 53 onto Walter Strong Drive. The concerns being increased traffic on Walter Strong Drive that will substantially increase the daily risk of trucks that try to illegally come through Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery back gate. That the truck drivers on Illinois 53 will try to use the cemetery as their shortcut to Walter Strong Drive and the bridge. That the increase of truck traffic on Walter Strong Drive could result in safety risk for many elderly visitors that will be trying to safely exit their vehicles westbound onto Walter Strong Drive. That a proposed truck turnaround on VA-owned property along Hawk Road near the front entrance of Abraham Lincoln, the VA does not intend to authorize a turnaround on VA property. That the increase in trucks will increase the noise, which will impact the visitor's experience. I come to you this evening as the village administrator of the Village of Elwood, but also I come to you as a 35-year resident of the village. Elwood is where I raised my family, where my dad and one of my children and some of my grandchildren still reside. It is where my neighbors are considered more family than just people you live near. The Village of Elwood requests that the City Council please consider the impact this development will have not only on the City of Joliet, but also on your family, friends, neighbors, and communities to the north, south, east, and west. Thank you for your time this evening.
Thank you.
Tricia Moss. Tricia, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I am here as the Cassidy, as a trustee of the Village of Elwood. I want to read something from the Will County Community Friendly Freight Mobility Plan. It says large-scale freight developments and intermodal facilities can have impacts far beyond the borders of the local community they are built in. Coordination and a regional perspective toward all impacted jurisdictions are critical to achieving the community-friendly implementation of freight-based development. The review of a new development requires coordination of the local community, developers, and other jurisdictions to evaluate the potential benefits and impacts of the proposed facility. I'll go on and skip some. It says, coordinating and integrating land use planning with transportation planning is an important step to creating an efficient, competitive, and sustainable community. A well-thought-out land use plan can improve economic vitality, decrease traffic congestion, and lower costs for transportation infrastructure, as well as improve community livability, our safety, and our future. So I would like to go through some of the freight development checklists. Because I wasn't able to obtain a copy of any of their answers from North Point. I have results been incorporated into local planning and transportation policies. Have key facilities, infrastructure, or networks been coordinated with neighboring municipalities, townships, and the county? Is the proposed development consistent with the community's land use plan? If the area is in a proximity to residential or other sensitive areas, have mitigation measures been taken? No. Have the development plans been reviewed to determine the impact to existing freight corridors and facilities? The traffic in Elwood, Joliet, Centerpoint, as you know, that's going to be affected. This is going to go there. That's where the truck traffic goes. And the employees that are trying to get into the Centerpoint facilities. If the impacts exist, have appropriate design and mitigation measures been proposed to avoid conflict? I haven't seen any. No meetings with Elwood, or I haven't heard of any meetings with Centerpoint. What is the plan? Is the location of the project in close proximity to highways, freight facilities, or railways to promote freight consolidation? Nope. Not according to this plan, this study. Do the freight movement anticipations for the development conform with requirements of neighboring jurisdictions to ensure seamless freight movement? There's existing congestion road right now. Has collaboration with neighboring jurisdictions occurred? Definitely not in Elwood. Okay. The next one, it says, do they accommodate sufficient capacity turning movements and traffic controls? What about Manhattan Road by Route 53, Mississippi Avenue, Route 52 Manhattan where the cemetery is? Where are those turning lanes gonna go? Does the development plan strive to minimize the conflict between freight traffic and automobile traffic? Once again, existing Centerpoint, employee, automobile traffic, truck traffic. And then has sufficient access points been provided? Okay, so one way for the trucks to get in and out? That does not seem like a realistic plan. Have restrictions for truck weights, width, and height been evaluated for proposed freight corridors? Are you making your own roads then, right? Right, North Point, are you making your own roads? I'll go further on. This is question number 28. Are there plans for sufficient retail and occupational services to meet the needs of proposed employees in the community? Has planning been done to support ancillary freight and truck supportive developments such as fueling, maintenance, storage, and truck parking? We don't have it now in that area. If not, has the community analyzed the need for the services and planned other locations and development in accordance to support them? Okay. Does the development plan provide approximately located and sized access points of all modes of transportation that will serve the development? 600 feet from the project, how much is industrial, agricultural? It says, has a detailed traffic impact study been prepared for the project? So 600 feet from the project, how much is industrial, residential, agricultural? This information wasn't shared. Does the project provide necessary infrastructure improvements to meet the anticipated traffic impacts? Let's see, Elwood, the beginning and end of the bridge, supposedly bridge, roads that lead to it, those are going to be impacted. If so, have funding sources, whether public or private, been identified to meet the infrastructure needs? What funds have been given to Elwood, Jackson Township, the state? Going on to number 39. Have buffer berms and screenings been provided where necessary to reduce visual noise and light impact on adjacent uses? We have some difficulties now about that. What about the cemetery, how are you going to go ahead in Midaywood? What exactly are you gonna be able to put there that would be positive for that situation? You think? Has a noise study been conducted or significant noise generated uses and appropriate mitigations been proposed? I know that's been asked before, but we haven't got any answers. Besides, I think that would be a yes or no one. But no answers yet? Okay. Says, does the plan provide well-designed signage for the development? Any? Are there? Are controls in place for the identification signs and building signs? You know, I can prove it. Is there information there? Is there a wayfinding plan that provides sufficient signage to both freight and automobile traffic? Now that says both. Where are the wayward trucks being directed to go? The likelihood of them actually listening to those instructions of how to get where they're supposed to be going won't be used. They'll be using their GPS on their phone and go through the cemetery or go downtown Elwood. That affects the safety of my residents, of our residents of Elwood. Have fire protection and law enforcement been involved in the review of the project? From the last that I heard, I think it was in 2017, that's a while ago. Law enforcement of Elwood should be part of this communication. Has the impact of employee shift change and the number of anticipated workers been evaluated? You would have to include the center point traffic as well, especially if that's going in and out of that area. Has the impact of employee shift, are accurate traffic and management measures in place to mitigate the impacts from peak employee activity in the project? Those employees are going to be using Mississippi Avenue, crossing over to 53, which is in the village of Elwood. Okay. So when I was doing this, I was looking at the answers and how many no's that I had in this checklist. And I think the highest I got was like a 33 out of 50. That was being generous. I don't think that you would want to approve something that is lower than a C. It's not right for the communities. Well, since you're not going to answer the questions, it shows that you lack transparency as a company, business, neighbor. North Point developer, you pulled out of a development, a different town, because there were about 20 people against that project. When I asked a North Point rep at an open house meeting that was hosted at the Stone City VFW, if they have ever seen or had such amount of opposition for any other projects that they have been confronted with than this project in Will County, the answer was no. This is the most opposition that they have seen. Why, how is this development different than the one you walked away from? As mentioned, building something this large next to Madera National Tallgrass Prairie and the Abraham National Cemetery is extremely disrespectful and irresponsible. North Point already made broken promises to Joliet and Unions. Remember the 300+ acres proposal that was approved for rezoning from residential agricultural to industrial? Nothing has been built yet. Speaking about this rezoning request, I hope that some of you remember that you voted against the petitioner because the area is not ready to supporting this type of development. This current proposal in front of you should be no different. Why is it different? It shouldn't be. It's the same. Okay, within 600 feet of the development, the percent of industrial use is basically nil compared to the amount of land that is zoned agricultural and residential. This proves that this project, this proposed industrial park, does not belong here. And Joliet, you are the party that originally asked Elwood to have a boundary agreement, to have a healthy relationship. I would like to have a healthy relationship with the surrounding cities and towns. How can we make this a more viable option? Because this one is not the right use. I'm asking you to vote no for the petitioner's request. There were no public comments that were in favor for this proposal from the Planning and Zoning Commission hearing. The proposed bridge has not been approved. You could say North Point made a bad business decision when they purchased the southern acres in Elwood that was originally Centerpoint's. I know for a fact that the majority of the residents of Elwood, because I have gone door to door several times, they oppose this industrial park. And as mentioned earlier, something about putting this bridge coming into Elwood, and because Elwood would be against the traffic coming into their city, their village. You decide to go ahead and put this in Joliet then, because it does not belong in Elwood. And I know that the residents would also agree. That is your responsibility. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, that's the last in-person interested party. We'll go to callers now who are interested parties.
We have Patricia on the line.
Patricia, can you give your name, address, and they're gonna swear you in?
My name is Pat Oiga.
Pat, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
So help me God.
Go ahead.
My name is Pat Oiga. Thank you for allowing me to speak tonight. I ask you to vote no to North Point. Do you want your legacy to be that you destroyed Will County? Because that's what this monstrosity will do. Think about your kids and your grandkids before you vote. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Teresa on the line.
Teresa, it's Mayor Odekirk. Can you give your name, address, and then you'll be sworn in?
Teresa Papish, Jackson Township, Elwood.
Teresa, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Go ahead.
Thank you for hearing us tonight. Ralph and I both deeply oppose this project for numerous reasons. We haven't seen a comprehensive plan of what this is going to look like, so we don't know how it's going to impact this area. We don't know what it's going to cost the taxpayers, and we don't know what kind of damage it's going to do. Centerpoint is not fully built out and still provides sufficient area for the inland port that we need. The infrastructure of this area cannot handle the increased car and truck traffic. The car traffic alone estimated at 5,000 cars, both leaving and coming from ships. So you're going to have 10,000 cars going to this thing over a bridge that's not here. We do need farmland to produce our food. I am deeply resentful that Abraham Lincoln Cemetery and Medewin would be encroached upon. This entire project will have a negative impact on the entire region, probably for at least a 100-mile radius of Will County. The financial gain from this project is limited and will not provide secure area job employment. And I have no idea what it's going to cost the taxpayers of Joliet to maintain this project. Personally, we have water concerns. We are on a well that we don't know if it will dry up if they put the proposed water tower that they had in a plan from a few months ago. We also are on a old hand-dug stone quarry from the 1920s that I don't know, will that area now flood? Because we haven't seen any kind of plans of what is going next to us. We're going to have no idea what it's going to do to the water purity, if we're going to have water or if we're going to have too much water. Personally, I have a metabolic disorder that gives me asthma attacks from diesel exhaust. I literally do not know if I'm going to be able to stay in the house that we built 32 years ago by hand. I will definitely have to keep the windows closed, and I will not be able to go outside if there's diesel traffic close to me at all. Ralph and I both deeply oppose this project, and we beg you to vote no to this, because if you do it, you are going to destroy the entire area. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have Kathy on the line.
Kathy, Mr. Mayor Odekirk, you give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in.
Okay, my name is Kathy Bernhardt.
Kathy, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
You may begin.
Okay, like I said, my name is Kathy Bernhardt. I'd like to start by thanking in advance those on the council who say no to this project and this company. You are true representatives of your people over politics. I've spent a lot of time thinking, what can I possibly say to this council that would make you say no to North Point, Compass Business Park, Eastgate, whatever they choose to call themselves. Environmental concerns seem to fall on deaf ears, as you don't seem to hear the testimonies of those such as Ann Baskerville of the Sierra Club, nor Stacy Myers of Open Lands, along with many others. They have shown you data, brought up factual matters and concerns with their studies of the effects of diesel particulates on human health and light pollution messing up migrations, just to name a few. Water issues have no effect on your decisions, although paving over 40 acres of farmland for a trucking terminal will certainly flood nearby productive fields. From the words of Mr. Regis, I believe, quote, "It will either be a long, narrow building or concrete on those 40 acres, end quote. And by the way, you still don't have contiguity to that section of the project. You scoff at the pleas of our nation's veterans to protect a treasure in our backyard, the Abraham Lincoln National Cemetery, and cast the blame on Centerpoint and Elwood for already being there. I'm not sure how to make you see reason about the traffic issues and road conditions that already exist in the area before allowing a massive warehouse complex to be added. These problems aren't going to magically disappear by saying yes. They will get so much worse. Unless North Point plans to build an airport in their footprint and fly in all of the workers, that is not in their proposal. For Mr. George to say that building this will actually decrease traffic in the area is laughable, unless he has some hidden plan where all the other warehouses and workers who are already here are taken away. If you voted against warehouses being built at the Chicagoland Speedway, you should also be voting no for this. Sure, do you understand how dangerous I-80, I-55, and Highway 53 are, right? Even if you try to avoid them? Unfortunately, I do not have the luxury of avoiding these roads. Our doctors are in Joliet, we eat out in Joliet and shop in Joliet, but I'm not going to risk our lives to support your city when by the very act of allowing this monstrosity to be built, you show you care nothing for our lives. We have to take 53 and 80 to get to Joliet. There are thousands of us on your south side that will choose to take their business elsewhere. My older kids attended Joliet Central and had to take 53 to get there. They were late for school quite often due to traffic. And this is the existing traffic. My youngest will be heading there in a year, and as much as I love Joliet Central, the teachers, the activities, the dual and AP credit, I've been seriously considering where else I can send him to school so he doesn't have to deal with it. I'm assuming you don't care about property rights, since you'll be signing an agreement that says you will help North Point to use eminent domain and or condemnation. I'm not sure what magic trick you can possibly use to declare any of this beautiful farmland blighted, but it will surely become another lawsuit against the city. And who pays for the lawyers? The taxpayers of Joliet. You clearly have no concern for those people you are supposed to represent. In spite of the overwhelming proof of damage this will do to this area, you continue to push this through at a time when we can't even sit in the room with you. You don't have to see our faces when we give our testimony. How easy it is to ignore us. So all I can do is pray. Pray that God touches your hearts and your heads to say no, to protect your citizens, to keep this land and its residents healthy. Say no for your city, the surrounding towns, Will County, and all of the people who have to travel through this area. Just say no. Thank you.
Thank you.
We have James on the line.
James, can you give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in?
James?
Go to the next call.
We have Julie on the line.
Julie, can you give your name, address, and then you'll be sworn in?
Yes, it's Julia Baum Coldwater. I'm from Jackson Township.
Julia, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Yes, I do.
And Julia, we will display your file that you submitted as well at this time.
Okay, very good. Thank you so much. I do want to thank you for the opportunity to comment at the hearing again. My name is Julia Baum Coldwater, and again, as in other hearings, I'm speaking on behalf of both my husband, Larry Coldwater, and me. We are the owners, operators of Coldwater Seed Farm in Jackson Township, and we will be directly and negatively impacted by the proposed project if approved as it's planned currently. First, before we get into our concerns about the project, we do want to express our frustration and concern over a lot of the confusion with the public notice. Sometimes the lack of public notice, sometimes the confusing public notice that surrounded the three hearings related to the proposal and the annexation being considered today. Others have presented, and there are others that likely will present statements about this. So I will not repeat what others will be covering, but I do wish to indicate that I will be submitting photos documenting a lack of adequate signage concerning the zoning board of appeals hearing for the trailer parking special uses. Some needed signs were missing south of Brown Road on the east side of Brown, and only 3 signs were visible for the full 3/4 mile stretch there. So when my email arrives, I am asking that the email and the attached photos and the documentation of those with it, I'm asking that that be entered into the hearing record along with my own testimony. And on to the testimony. My husband and I do have serious concerns about the proposed project for a number of both personal reasons and some broader reasons about the community in general. I'll start with our personal concerns. To start with, our 540-acre farm is contiguous with the overall project footprint covered by the annexation and development agreement that's under consideration tonight. Our farm sits between the westernmost border of Compass Business Park Joliet to our east and the anticipated site for the proposed bridge crossing 53 and the UP tracks to our west, which is on the property, will be starting on the property that North Point has that's within the village of Elwood limits. The proposed annexation and development agreement includes requirements that indicate clear use of our personal property for certain stipulated components of the project, despite the fact that we are not and will not be under Joliet's jurisdiction. Our land is the targeted location for Eastgate Logistics' proposed closed loop, which all truck traffic would be required to use to access the proposed bridge crossing 53 in the UP tracks. And then further accessing from there, accessing Center Point Intermodal, the BNSF rail, and the interstate. This closed loop would bisect our farm, and it's fully built to Compass Business Park specs from Mississippi Avenue, and the closed loop, it would effectively cut off our access to the farmland north of the loop itself, making those fields landlocked and preventing them from being farmed. Note that we will lose access to at least 135 acres of productive farmland, and this number could be higher depending on actual placement of the closed loop. Lost access would affect up to 35% of our farm fields, and this landlocking likely will substantially diminish our property value for farming purposes. In prior hearings, I have presented evidence showing how and why field access would be cut off, and I respectfully refer council members to those hearing records. You can see that in the Planning Commission and Zoning Board of Appeals hearings. It's within the record. I don't want to repeat that and take all that time. The next issue, the proposed annexation and development agreement and public discussions regarding the project also indicate we could face actual loss of farmland, homesteads, and buildings, roadway easements, pedestrian walkway easements, bike path easements, and further landscaping that's been proposed in various forms all threaten land and our farmsteads. The proposed annexation and development agreement would pose a direct threat also to historical buildings and sites. The Coldwater Farms homestead and farm along Chicago Road has already been designated officially eligible for listing in the National Register of Historic Places by the Illinois Department of Natural Resources. The closed loop would damage this historic farm. 2 additional homesteads and farms have been deemed significant and supportive for historical purposes by Will County. One of these farmsteads would be lost with the creation of the closed loop as planned. The proposed annexation and development agreement does not adequately address surface water and runoff mediation, which poses a direct threat to our farming operations. No surface water studies or specific plans have been made available to the public for us to assess, and which specifically addresses issues such as current floodplains and natural water flow areas that will be paved over, or the current tile systems for the project footprint and those tile systems as they connect in with adjacent farmland owned by private citizens. Next concern is the proposed annexation and development agreement strongly suggests that the project could pose a threat to all local and private wells in the area, including our own personal private wells on our property. No study regarding groundwater was available for the public to review, making it difficult to assess the impact this project would have on water sources currently used by us and other residents. Next item, the project's proximity to us would have a direct negative impact on our health and quality of life. Even a conservative traffic estimate of 3,600 trucks per day would bring approximately 1 truck every 12 seconds past our home, spewing diesel exhaust and causing serious threat to 2 of our family members of chronic respiratory diseases. Overall, the project poses a grave risk to us personally. This project, as planned, will cause loss of access to our land. It will cause grave harm and loss to our land, our farming and business operation, our income, and our well-being, and likely will substantially diminish our property value for farming purposes. These are the personal issues that we face, but there also are general concerns. The project will have a devastating impact on the broader area due to a number of factors, many of which have been elaborated on. So I'll just give a quick summary. There'll be greatly increased traffic, both truck and employee traffic on already inadequate crumbling infrastructure, not just in the immediate Elwood area, but in Will County as a whole. There'll be an increase in air pollution, especially diesel particulate matter, from the significant increase in truck and car traffic, putting the public in general at risk. There is a threat of increased flooding due to the paving over of once productive farmland. Again, no surface water studies or plans have been made available to the public. We have no idea how this will be mediated. We're just told it will be. There'll be a likely decrease in property values for surrounding residences due to the industrial growth around the project. Please know that the reported 2018-2019 increase in housing values for Elwood, as reported by North Point at the Planning Commission hearing presentation, may well have occurred simply because North Point was not approved in April 2018. The increase came because North Point was told to go. And other local realtors have stated and expressed disagreement with North Point's assessment of the situation. And they agreed that the increase had nothing to do, or had everything to do with North Point leaving the area. Overall, there'll be a loss of quality of life due to the issues mentioned, just to name a few. Furthermore, I'd like to speak more about the impact that will definitely happen to Abraham Lincoln Veterans Cemetery. The map that should be up before you has the overall layout of the project in relation to all the other major sites in the area. The turquoise shows the Compass Business Park Joliet portion. The gray over towards the west shows the North Point property that is within Elwood's jurisdiction. The red dot just to the west of that gray shows the proposed bridge site. And following from there are two red lines that overlay Walter Strong Drive, which is the continuation of the proposed closed loop. There's a light teal to the south of that road, which is the Veterans Cemetery. Keep this in mind as I express some of my concerns. Joliet's boundaries may not abut the cemetery itself, but the proposed closed loop and bridge required by Joliet and the current proposed locations for both of those would place all semi-traffic connected to Compass Business Park on Walter Strong Drive. And it would drive that traffic directly adjacent to the cemetery boundary, which roughly 45 feet of the current cemetery, or roughly 45 feet of the current cemetery fence, and within roughly 100 to 200 feet of future planned grave sites. Those visiting graves will be subjected to the engine noise, the road noise, and the diesel fumes from the trucks passing that area of the cemetery. Again, roughly one truck every 12 seconds, based on the more conservative traffic studies done by Compass Business Park, or done for Compass Business Park. By comparison, today I experienced two trucks within a 30-minute time span passing the same exact area. And that is with Center Point now built out in that area. The proposed bridge also would be within a third of a mile of the cemetery entrance and within a half mile of current grave sites off of the main entrance and within a half mile of future grave sites in that area adjacent to Walter Strong Drive. Berms and tree growth will do nothing to mediate the noise of truck traffic from reaching the cemetery from that bridge because of the proposed height of the bridge. Not only will there be constant engine noise, but the road noise of trucks rumbling over the bridge will be constant as well. One additional note, at the zoning board, at the zoning board hearing last week, Mr. George of North Point Development mentioned the presence of a truck terminal in Center Point on the west side of the cemetery, adjacent to the funeral pavilions. In truth, that terminal is over a half mile from those pavilions and is buffered by substantial forest growth, allowing for a quiet atmosphere for funerals to take place. That situation is significantly different than the scenario being proposed for Compass Business Park. Our vets and their families deserve better than this. Therefore, in light of everything that I have just expressed, I am asking the council to consider these issues and to vote no on the proposed project, the related annexation and development agreement, and any zoning variances and annexation currently being considered. I thank you.
Thank you.
We have Janine on the line.
Janine, this is Mayor Odekirk. You give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in by the clerk.
Janine Aaron, Elwood.
Janine, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can begin.
Okay, thank you, Mayor and council members. I'm going to start off by saying I did submit a 5-page letter with my questions and concerns. So I hope you all had a chance to review the emails prior to tonight's vote. For this reason, I'm going to try to avoid the repetition of the more obvious and well-documented concerns, although I definitely share all of those concerns. Please bear with me. I've only had a little time to prepare for tonight's meeting, but I felt it necessary to speak with you. Again, my name is Denise, and I'm a lifelong resident of Will County and tax-paying citizen. I own property in both Elwood and Jackson Township, and then some of our land lies within the footprint of North Point's proposed business park. I ask that you vote no on the proposed annexation agreement industrial zoning for Eastgate Logistics Park Chicago, also known as, of course, North Point Compass Business Park, and whatever it is today. As proposed, the project would alter the character of the locality, and it would harm the health and general welfare of the people within Joliet and the surrounding communities, such as myself, with the inundation of light, noise, air pollution, vibration, as well as drainage and groundwater issues that are serious and pervasive. As a landowner within the North Point footprint, I have been deprived of information provided to the city of Joliet as a basis for your decision to respond to both demonstrate the full extent of how I would be harmed and to provide important information for you to consider prior to deciding whether to approve this major new use. It was recently brought to my attention that some of my family's farmland was included in the new North Point annexation planning map. And the proposed truck terminal south of Brown Road that you are voting on would be adjacent to one of our active farm parcels as well as two beautiful residential properties. Why have we not been notified of this plan? And shouldn't the city of Joliet be notifying residents, business owners, and adjacent municipalities directly affected by the city's annexation and rezoning plan, especially those of us who are within 300 feet of the project boundary? I have yet to receive any form of communication from Joliet regarding our property being included in the North Point annexation footprint. And most disturbingly, we received no notice of either the hearing before the Plan Commission or the Zoning Board of Appeals, which have direct bearings on our rights and be harmful to our real property interests, amongst other effects. I also didn't receive any notice of the public hearing and vote taking place tonight to advance this agenda. So if it weren't for a lifelong friend of mine bringing all this to my attention, I would not have even known this meeting was taking place. Albeit I found out a little late to prepare and adequately protect my rights at this point. So, the involvement of all interested parties, as well as the county, state, and adjacent communities, I think is imperative because, especially with a project so massive, it would affect all of Will County and beyond. There are too many unanswered questions to consider a vote, at least at this time, and many aspects of this project and the annexation agreement remain vague, and it opens the door for a lot of problems later. I don't understand why all these votes are being pushed through so quickly. Why are these very important meetings being held in the middle of a global pandemic when residents cannot safely attend? Why are concerned parties not being given proper notification? Why can we not get answers to very legitimate concerns? Taxpayers should all be afforded the opportunity to come to City Hall and have their questions and concerns addressed in person. I find it appalling that we must choose between our health and our right to due process. I'm not well right now. I am immunosuppressed, and I am one of those who cannot take such a risk. I couldn't have even attended the hearing in person, even if I would have received proper notice. So I'm forced to write in or take my chances calling. I believe I was on here and holding Mr. Call already. I could hear you, but I guess you couldn't hear me.
So, I thought that was for me. So I couldn't take my chances coming down there and being in a room with full of people, you know, masked, not masked, or with unknown air circulation for what is likely to be several hours as we're seeing. So, my community, for my community and the ability for all of us to continue agricultural production here, how is this business park going to affect our local farming operations? And vice versa, how are we going to affect them? What effect will it have on the soil, air, water, our wells? How much will the pollution from trucks, the air and water pollution both degrade? How is it going to degrade our Class 1 soils and our LISA scores in the area? How much will this reduce their growing value? How will increased truck and employee traffic coexist with the slower moving farm equipment? Will there be police designated to direct traffic at change of shifts? If so, who will be paying for these services? Please carefully consider the viability of our local farming industry and the residents who depend on it here. I've also noticed there are privately owned parcels within the proposed annexation area. Do you plan to allow forced annexation and zoning changes to our private land? And if so, what tax implications will this have on the property? Maps that have been displayed show my property within the footprint of the North Point project. Yet my legal description is not in the petition. Will you try to force annex my land? I think that's relevant to my rights. Will North Point be seeking use of eminent domain if it receives enterprise zone status to obtain privately owned land that they have in their footprint? We heard from North Point that no land will be subject to forced annexation, and yet there is no contiguity within the current project area. Parcels sought by Eastgate to be annexed only touch corners in a place that is near my property. Given that the federal administration said it would not sell its land, one of these two statements must be false. Will North Point receive any form of TIF? Will that change if Eastgate can't prove that the prime highly productive farmland is a depressed area to qualify them for enterprise zone status? The rich soils in our area have generated revenue, and the demographics of our area clearly show that we are not depressed or blighted. So if and when this plan fails, how is North Point, how is it shown that it will finance the over $50 million that it would need for this major industrial use? What will North Point do to prevent runoff and pollution to the surrounding plots of land? I know this is a huge problem for farmers near the Kansas City and other of North Point's developments. They were left to fight them in court, and of course the private citizens can't hardly keep up with the billion-dollar company in the courts. So what will Joliet do to protect the residents of Joliet, Manhattan, Elwood, Jackson Township, and all the properties? My particular property is a specific example of one of the numerous lands under threat of flooding, drainage, and contamination from the North Point facility, as well as the induced traffic from cars and trucks that use and travel in the vicinity of the industrial complex. North Point's agreement with Joliet states they will only be responsible for the infrastructure within their business park. So what about the rest? It will be paying for maintenance and repair of township, city, county roads. What about our highways and interstates? How can we as a county even consider moving forward with the project prior to addressing the massive amount of road and bridge work that is already needed? Isn't that what happened with Center Point? We kind of put the cart before the horse, and we had trips. Doesn't Center Point still have over 2,000 acres left to build out? Little County should have plenty of designated industrial warehouse space available to fulfill the current needs. This area hasn't been able to catch up on necessary road improvements for over a decade now, and our bridges have been in need of serious attention for many years prior to that. Will the taxpayers be left to fund the bill? How will new Knoxville roads that quickly deteriorate under increased truck traffic detract from the $1 billion of infrastructure projects on backlog that we desperately need, like repairing the Des Plaines River Bridge? Residents long list of questions related to North Point's proposed business park. However, up to this point, many questions have yet to be answered, and the necessary traffic area and water studies have yet to be completed. We cannot defend our rights without reviewing and responding to these studies. Yet when I looked to request for this information, when it was requested to be made publicly available, they've been repeatedly denied. So again, why the big hurry to push this through without knowing the impact it will have? We all need answers. You need answers, we need answers. Some of the information provided by North Point and the city of Joliet conflicts. It's conflicting with the proposed written annexation agreement. The integrity of this process is of real and serious importance. It is the people who live here that will be forever impacted by your decisions, and we are still waiting for answers. From what I have witnessed during the public meetings, the majority of the public's questions and concerns were blatantly disregarded and are yet to be addressed. It is truly astonishing that after over 5 hours of testimony against this project at the last council meeting, with not even one caller and 5+ hours of support for this project, the council voted it right through without any deliberation or hesitation. If those representing Joliet already have answers to the many questions posed by the public, then why were so many questions left unanswered? Where is the transparency here? Why are some concerned citizens being directed to utilize FOIA to get these answers? And then why are the FOIAs that were directed to submit, then they're denied? When this information has been a part of the underlying review of Joliet staff and as part of the discussion in these hearings? Why are we denied maps shown in presentations to this council, the Planning Commission, the Zoning Board of Appeals on this matter? This both violates our rights and undermines your review of this very important matter. I am asking you, Mayor and members of the Joliet Council, please listen carefully to the concerns of your constituents. Work together with the surrounding municipalities. Consider the future of Joliet and Will County. This is likely one of the most important votes you will ever make, one the residents here will feel for decades to come and long after you have left office. Please ask yourself, is this the Joliet I want for my children and grandchildren? I'm worried about my daughter. She doesn't even want to get her driver's license when she's 16. I don't like her traveling to school to Joliet San Juan 53 amongst all the accidents and traffic now. You know, if and when North Point buckles under its own weight, do you want to be responsible for failed financing and increased Joliet debt? I know I could think of much better things for our area, such as continuing improvements to the downtown, supporting the Daily National Tallgrass Prairie effort and the Abraham Lincoln National Veterans Cemetery, improving working conditions for warehouse workers and expanding businesses that offer more diversified opportunities for our young adults. We were once on target to become a beautiful and flourishing tourist area along Route 66, but now I fear all that makes our area great will be lost to this massive, unnecessary industrial park. I cannot imagine why anyone would be willing to vote in some sort of something they know will have such a negative impact on their community. But that being said, I urge you all to vote no to North Point's proposed annexation agreement, no to the rezoning for this project, and no to North Point's business park altogether. North Point would be devastating to Joliet and Will County in immeasurable ways. I know I wouldn't want that as my legacy. Do you?
Thank you. Stacy, it's Mayor Odekirk.
Yeah.
You give your name and address, and they'll swear you in.
Stacy Myers, STACYMEYERS.
Stacy, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
Absolutely.
And Stacy, we will display the file that you submitted as well while you're speaking tonight.
Thank you very much. Mayor, ladies and gentlemen on the Joliet City Council, my name is Stacy Myers. I'm Open Land Senior Counsel and an interested party. I incorporated by reference my written comments, and I hope you all have had time to read them. Instead of what I originally prepared, I will hit a few highlights of what I wrote to you, and then respond to your discussion last night in hopes to clarify the history and context of Medallion and to provide facts as to why North Point would damage this national resource. A few highlights first before I move to that presentation. Please vote no and reject the referenda and ordinances before you on the agreement, annexation, rezoning, special use and variations permits regarding North Point. My points are as follows. 1, a giant industrial warehousing facility with a truck terminal and staging over 20,000 trucks a day is inconsistent with I-1 industrial use. This council rejected a smaller truck facility in 2015 for the same reasons we object to I-1 zoning today. I encourage you to watch the video that is embedded with my comments. 2, I-1 zoning prohibits by law special use and variation permits specifically for such requested truck uses. A new ordinance today cannot ignore and overwrite this requirement. Buildings on a conceptual site map, along with potentially over 1 million gallons per day of effluent discharged into Jackson Creek, triggers a requirement for another special use permit that was not applied for, which would also be ironically prohibited under I-1 zoning. Notice was confusing, conflicting, and division. Point 3. Hearing times, places, and rules conflicted in official notices without any retractions. Agendas changed. People who legally must have been received notice did not. Signage was missing. Studies relied upon by Joliet, such as traffic and water infrastructure, were denied under FOIAs or released after the evidentiary proceedings and too late for people to respond to and protect their rights. Eastgate never produced light, noise, vibration, air emissions, or other studies that show how badly North Point would harm people's health, property, communities, and resources such as Medallion. Eastgate concluded that the law will protect us without any showing that it will. The existence of laws does not mean that North Point will comply with them. Special uses and variations seem in flux. Eastgate says that they seek double roads rather than double parking of containers. People cannot defend against a ghost. Notice is to afford time to process relevant information, withholding evidence to cause Joliet from a comprehensive and thorough debate, damaging its process and making it defective. 4, there is no rational basis for the Zoning Board of Appeals finding that Eastgate showed by clear and convincing evidence that it met all criteria for the special use and variation permit. Eastgate asserted bold conclusions, failing to perform studies or prove that proposed special uses and variations 1, promote the general welfare of affected people and character of the locality. 2, does not achieve normal and language development and conflict surrounding property. And 3, does not harm the health and general welfare of Joliet and Joliet. Along with other factors, our
Okay, Stacy, hi, it's Chris Regis. Your connection started to fade out a little bit, so maybe check where your phone is or how it's set up or everything, so we get you back there. Go ahead.
I'm sorry, can you hear me now?
Yep, we got you. Go ahead and continue. Thank you. No, we're good. Just pick up, right where I cut in there.
Absolutely. In turn, what I can do to ensure is that I will submit what I am speaking so that you also have it for the record.
Thank you.
Okay? Thank you. So previous traffic studies bear out there will be more trucks because of North Point, not less, and a lot more commuter traffic will be on these roads. North Point threatens, not repairs, the area's billion-dollar investment. We can have better truck routes without sacrificing this area to make this happen. I have a few words on the day one, if I may. Chris, please let me know if I fade out again, because I definitely want to make sure you have this information.
I sure will.
Thank you. So, next slide, please. Can you move to the next image?
Yeah, we did.
Sorry, I don't have control of... I'm sorry?
We're on the site history Joliet Arsenal image.
Yes, there are a number of images there. Can you please move to the next one or scroll down?
Which one? Oh.
Perfect. I can't, there we go. Thank you so much. So, a bit about the Joliet Arsenal. As you know, it was picked up by a number of condemnation suits authorized in 1940 for World War II. It was declared excess by the Army as property in 1993 and occupied 23,500 acres. Next slide. The uses included TNT production facilities, powerhouses, storage bunkers, and other infrastructure to facilitate making munitions during World War II. Next slide. Next slide, please. Please scroll down.
He did. We're looking at a map right now, so go ahead and keep going.
I'm so sorry. There's a lag between you and me, and so I apologize. I cannot see what you see. So what you see here is a green map, correct?
Yep.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. So that map was actually created by Joliet Open Lands and 25 other delegates on a committee, a designated stakeholder committee, which basically defined how this blighted land that was laced with explosives would be transformed into the blend of mixed uses that you see today. And that committee was called the Joliet Arsenal Planning Commission. I believe that you mentioned last night that Michael may have been a part of that. The map that you see before you, actually, Open Lands helped to create. So you'll see the whole blend of uses, as well as the JTA, the Joliet Army Training Area, that was promised to Midaywan when it was no longer using it for its own military purposes. So this map, that was basically a collaborative exercise by all of us to come up with these uses, was unanimously voted upon and approved by that commission, by all of us. And then that local map was basically considered the land use plan, which was integrated into, next slide, the Illinois Land and Conservation Act of 1995. Can you all see that?
Yes.
Fabulous. I'm so sorry. I'm just going to trust that you can see what I'm talking about. Hopefully that suffices. So you can see that this law was passed in 1996, and absolutely, Weller, St. Meister, and Durbin were instrumental to its passage through Congress and signed into law by the President. And you can see here that the land use plan specifically targeted the blend of uses that were provided by all of us to transform specifically the former arsenal, not beyond it, but that land which was blighted and used by the military. Next slide, please. So the reasons which were provided to and by the representatives and senators in Congress was that for Midaywan specifically, 90% of our wetlands are blonde. That's a loss of roughly 8.5 million acres of wetlands in Illinois since the late 1700s. Now, this was in the 1970s, so the number is actually probably higher by now. But this was the justification which was used for Midewin, that we only have 0.001% of all of our prairies left remaining in Illinois that used to sweep across the state. That's a loss of roughly 20 million acres of prairie. This is one of the last vast sea of prairie left both in our state and emblematic of what our state is to the rest of the country. Next slide. Midewin is also an anchor. I don't know if you've all been shown this before, but it is basically at the epicenter of 27 state and federally protected natural resources and is interwoven and connected through watersheds and other means to all of these resources. It is an astounding wealth of natural resources that you have in your backyard. Next slide. So yes, this means bison. Next slide. And it also means grassland birds that have globally impaired habitat in Midewin that are in steep decline and at risk of disappearing everywhere. Next slide. But for many residents of Joliet that we have heard from, as well as people across the region and beyond, this is also a place for people, especially right now during COVID, to find some form of safe harbor and refuge as we are coping with this global pandemic and beyond. Next slide. Midewin also has great value to Joliet and beyond in ecosystem services. It is basically a huge sink for the intense storms that just keep growing stronger and stronger, which, next slide, are causing increased and accelerated problems with flooding within Joliet. So the integrity of this natural area is not just important for itself and the surrounding natural resources, but also the surrounding communities that rely upon it in part for resilience. Next slide. So last night I heard of confusion as to why North Point would threaten this globally significant natural resource, which harbors some of the rarest landscapes in the world, arguably some have said rarer than the rarest rainforest with hundreds of acres left. So you are correct that Joliet's border does not touch the Midewin National Tallgrass Prairies border. However, land that would be activated within Joliet that is under the ownership of North Point and within North Point's plans and requisite for the access that it needs for this project is within Elwood and meets Midewin National Tallgrass Prairie at the center of Hawk Road. Their interests touch. In addition, I'm going to show you how induced traffic has already been shown to be a huge threat to Midewin National Tallgrass Prairie, not by our studies, but by studies that have been done for North Point in the past. Unfortunately, I would show you the traffic study that was recently done that you all have seen and relied upon. I was denied access via FOIA to that document, so I will rely upon previous traffic studies involving the area and the footprints that North Point has provided in order to at least show that there will be an increase in trucks and cars in the area. Hopefully this can be refined by delayed vote or a no vote tonight so that we can really get to the bottom of exactly how this will affect everyone. If you look at Trend Systems' report regarding the Compass Business Park and the impacts that it would have on the surrounding Center Point Way, roadway network. Thank you. Next slide. What you will see in number 2, observations, recommendations, and conclusions, is this statement. And this is not my report. This is a report which has been tendered in support of Compass Business Park previously. Estimate for a 2,000-acre build-out. Okay, so this is a little larger, but not much if you count the acreage of the 1360 plus the 300 plus acres within, if you could stay there for just one moment, please. Within Elwood, all right? Compass Business Park will generate 5,300 new trips each weekday, with about 30% of these trips will be in trucks. That's staggering. That is not basically the statement that North Point Eastgate has provided, that there will be no more trucks on the road than there are previously. That was a statement made before the Zoning Board of Appeals. Second one says truck traffic on Walter Strawn Drive will increase from a projected 1,700 trucks per day to 22,400 trucks per day. That's staggering. So I wanted to point you towards this study. That was a study that was basically performed in pursuit and evaluation of this project for you to see the numbers. And if the numbers are so disparate, I would question that. Next slide. The reason why these numbers are so significant to Medewan is because induced traffic is a real and serious threat to the integrity of Medewan's landscapes, of all of its resources and those connected to it, and the services that it provides to you and other communities. If you look at this slide, which was actually the Arsenal land use concept, which was in the first environmental assessment provided by the U.S. Forest Service for Medewan, you will see how Route 53 runs right through the epicenter of this national tall grass fir. When you have a huge influx of traffic in a natural area like this, on roads or rail or both, next slide, studies relied upon by IDOT, Highway Administration, and other agencies show that road noise, vibration, sometimes light, depending upon the species, and pollution have a negative effect, and quite actually a large blast radius for some species on the habitat and plants and animals that live there. So with Congress basically authorizing what all of us basically deem significant as far as this as a globally important resource, the studies that agencies rely upon show, this is one of many, a recent meta-analysis of 49 data sets, including 234 species of mammals and birds across 4 continents, demonstrated that bird and mammal populations decline within 1 and 5 kilometers of human infrastructure, including roads, respectively. Now, if you remember that map, that's within 3 miles, right? Joliet, southern boundary, would be within 3 miles of Medewan. That's a problem. In addition, all of the induced traffic, noise, light, vibration, pollution, that would run through the center of Medewan, increasing the number of cars, commuters, as well as trucks per day, would cause a problem. And that problem we take very seriously. So last is a study called the George Foreman study. If you have any transportation nerds in the room, this will look very familiar to them. It's a 2002 study which is still relied upon within Illinois, especially because of the association with grassland birds, which is one of the hundreds of species within Medewan, but a globally declining one, and so thus it is a good indicator species and metric. In that study, which basically was also shown to be problematic for the Ileana, basically inducing truck traffic on 53. Traffic volume can reduce bird presence and breeding up to 1,200 meters from a road. And road ecology, especially the effects extending outward greater than 100 meters from roads with traffic, is a sine qua non for effective land use and transportation policy. So
So these are the studies that the transportation agencies are relying on. These are not my studies. These are not my maps. These are not my figures. But hopefully it will provide you with a clearer figure and understanding as to why we are concerned that this resource would be degraded. And finally, if you can scroll back, please, for just one moment to image 17. It's that big map that I showed you with North Point and Medewin and everything else in the Des Plaines River. Do you see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Sorry, if you hear noise in the background, I apologize. All right, do you see the Jackson Creek watershed?
Yes.
And I know that is precious to some of you. I'm sorry, I wish I could see you tonight. I'm immunocompromised and cannot be there. So the Jackson Creek watershed, if you see that, you see how it runs through the North Point project area? We know this, right? So the concept site plan, which I just saw last night for the first time because it was released with the agenda and not during the evidentiary proceedings when we tried to FOIA it. There's a building on that concept site plan. There's also FOIA information regarding discharge. I don't have that report either. I was denied the water infrastructure report. But if you look at all of the email regarding Strand, it is readily apparent some of the findings, a few of them, if they are still accurate, basically conclude that there could be up to a 1.3 million gallon per day discharge somewhere. If that is to Jackson Creek, that's a real problem. We've had our feet in Jackson Creek to help understand the endangered species which live there and how beautiful that creek is and what a treasure you have in your backyard. And we think, like you, that it is important to preserve it in accordance with your ordinance, which is why that special use permit is so important. But if you follow the line of Jackson Creek west, do you see how it runs through the Joliet Army training area? I know that Larry Sr. at one point, Larry Walsh Sr. had said that he had had his feet in that creek when he was young. You see how it spans through there? And then it goes up to what looks like a duck by the Des Plaines River? Where you see that duck, that basically that triangular area, that's Dolomite Prairie. That's some of the rarest habitat in the world. If you look at how that hydrology works, it's all connected. If you put 1.3 million gallons per day of effluent treated to some unknown concentration, even the flow alone, not know how it's going to run through a riparian corridor, which is basically a corridor for where there are studies ongoing as to how northern long-eared bats may be using that corridor between maternity bat colonies. That's one species. There are many. That is a refugia in there, which is why it's promised in the data, right? There is nothing regarding how that's going to impact that area. Nothing. So the blast radius of this project is not necessarily measured by the mere proximity of the Joliet boundary to Medewin. It's much bigger and broader. And I thought you guys, since I know there are a number of you that really care about this resource, would at least want to know what the studies say. And I think that it's enough understanding the importance of all of this to Joliet and the significance of the impacts as well as the services that this area provides, that Eastgate owes it to us to study and understand the impacts. They have admitted they have done nothing. Nothing. We deserve nothing. So I would ask you for this reason, as well as everything else, understanding now that you have the maps and studies before you, to say no to this. And we deserve something better we can have something smarter, which basically puts people's feet on the ground and working in areas closer to our interstates so that we can have the business that we want in areas that can accommodate it, that don't needlessly sacrifice our other industries that are bulwark for our state and our nation. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
Got Dan on the line.
Dan, this is Mayor Odekirk. You give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in.
This is Dan DiCaprio. Have I been called?
Yep.
Dan, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and
Hello,
nothing?
I'm Dan DiCaprio.
Dan, you ain't sworn in. Hold on a minute. Go ahead.
Dan, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
All right, go ahead.
So I'm Dan DiCaprio again, I'm a 29-year resident of Manhattan, Illinois. I'm speaking to you as a private citizen, not representing any board that I'm currently sitting on or have sat on in the past. Good evening, Mayor Ordinances, and ladies and gentlemen of the board, as well as the Joliet staff in attendance this evening. As most of you know, I've opposed the North Point development from day one in Will County. Our current infrastructure can't handle the current number of warehouses and Centerpoint, which is not even at capacity, let alone 2,200 or 2,000 plus acres of warehouses and an intermodal, the likes of North Point. So let's not add 10,000 trucks, 5,000 employee trips, some say even 24,000 to our overcrowded interstates, county roads, township roads, and local roads. The people of Will County did not ask for this. They did not want it. People of Manhattan don't want it. Almost 98% have said that they don't want it. So tonight, as you vote on this development, how do you want to be remembered? Well, this may surprise you, but I want to thank North Point for several different things. For unifying the Will County casting bodies and organizations, politicians, and military veterans that opposed North Point. Those are 54 in total. For exposing good, bad, strong, and weak elected officials in each of our cities, villages, and townships. For exposing how elected officials treat one another within their own governing body. For exposing greed over compassion between governing bodies, villages, cities, and townships. For exposing transparency or lack of transparency from elected officials across Will County. Did you listen to the following resolutions and letters opposing North Point over the last 2 years? There's 54 in total. Songwriter Tom Petty wrote, "Oh, we won't back down. No, we won't back down. You can stand us up at the gates of blank, and we won't back down." Well, we won't back down, not 1 inch, not 1 foot, not 1 yard, or not 1 mile to this development. The taxing bodies, 54, the taxing bodies were the Village of Elwood, who's already spoken, the Village of Manhattan, who just stopped negotiations with North Point, Jackson Township, Manhattan Township, Elwood Community Consolidated School District 203. Sorry, we broke up there. Can you still hear me?
Yeah, go ahead.
Dan, you can continue.
I'm sorry, I can't hear you.
We can hear you. You can continue.
Okay.
Mr. DiCaprio, you gotta finish up.
Okay. There we go, I heard you that time, okay. The organizations against North Point, the Alan J. Lynch Medal of Honor and Veterans Foundation, Stone City VFW, Post 2199, Wilmington VFW, Post 5422, Manhattan American Legion, Post 0935, New Lenox VFW, Post 9545, Joliet Buffalo Soldier Memorial American Legion, Post 241, the Veterans of the Nami Nation, Cheers to Warriors, the K-9 for Veteran Warriors, the Operation Care Package, the Veterans Outreach Services of Illinois, Will County Sheriff's Department deputies, FOP, Labor Union, Open Lands, the Sierra Club, the Daywin Alliance, the Mary Baskerville, the Will County Environmental Network, the Cunningham Neighborhood Council, the Preston Heights Neighborhood Council, the Ridgeview Subdivision Association, Bishop Stephen Evan and Leap of Faith Ministries, Linda Martin, Senior Pastor of Mount Olive Baptist Church in Joliet, the Will County Farm Bureau, the Will County Soil and Water Conservation District, Military Veterans Plaintiffs Against North Point, Ted Michi, Ellen J. Medal, Robert Pillion, Michael Pomikoff, Kevin Pomikanova, Kip Pochvar, John Walker, Gus Balin, Alejandro or Al Willard Gutierrez, Jimmy Walsh, Ryan Cotis, John Valarugo, Ron Adams. Politicians. And the list is in as many here. The late Larry Walsh Sr., Illinois State Representative, 86th District. Don Gould, Will County Board Member, District 6. Joe Van Dunn, Will County Board Member, 6. Amanda Koch, Will County Board Member 2. Judy Ogawa, Will County Board Member, District 1. Rachel Ventura, Will County Board Member, District 9. Patrick Joyce, Illinois State Senator, 40th District. Brian Julie Retta, candidate for Village of Mayor of Manhattan. Ron Adamski, candidate for Village of Manhattan Trustee. Bill Garrett, candidate for Village of Manhattan Trustee. And myself, also a candidate for Village Trustee. I'd like to say that asking you to vote no, the number of deaths that occur on Route 80, 55, 53, and 52 due to truck traffic as well as the accidents on the same above, the quality of life of our students in Manhattan and the families of those students, and the decrease in home value are just a few of the reasons why people of Manhattan do not want this. Do you want this for us in Manhattan? Be a good neighbor. For North Point, we are not your plan B. Jackson Township, Manhattan Township, and Manhattan Village proper. Do not plan in the future, even attempting to annex between your city and our township and our villages, and I ask you to vote no.
Thank you.
We got Eric on the line.
Eric, it's Mayor Odekirk. You give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in by the clerk.
My name is Erica Alt, Erica, T as in Tom, Z as in zebra.
Erica, do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can proceed.
My name is Erica Alt. I'm a nearby resident. This proposal will change my community forever. It will compromise the safety of my children who will live downwind of the air contamination. The school buses will have to contend with even more trucks. I cannot understand why this is being pushed through right now. The greed of your local government knows no bounds, even with the limited information in front of you. You all know this is a bad idea, a horrible idea. If you vote yes, Joliet can never be considered a good neighbor. This city will forever be known as a bully, an enemy to families who strive day in and day out to do the best for their children. I urge you all to vote no. That is all for my comments. Thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Okay, James on the line.
James, it's Mayor Odekirk. You give your name, address, and you'll be sworn in by the clerk.
James?
Hello?
Hi, James. Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
You can proceed.
My name is Jim Walsh, and I'm supervisor of Manhattan Township. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. Well, here we are, once again, discussing the North Point project. Wow, can you believe it? 3 or 4 years ago, our neighboring community, the village of Elwood, turned this project down, knowing we all agreed that it was not good for them or their neighboring communities, being Joliet and Manhattan. At that time, Joliet had boundary agreements with both villages, Manhattan and Elwood. Also, at that time, Mayor Odekirk expressed Joliet had no interest in this project. But lo and behold, here we are 3 years later, and Joliet thinks this is a good project. And the heck with whatever 90% of the people of the neighboring communities think or say. Yes, it is true that the land to be annexed is in Jackson Township, but we in Manhattan Township are right up against Jackson Township. We already know the amount of trucks that are running our roads, and that is without North Point being there. We also know that you say it is going to be a closed loop. But realistically, you tell me what are the odds that this closed loop is going to happen? More unrealistic are the chances of a bridge getting built over a 4-lane highway, Route 53, to complete this loop. I believe I am correct in saying that Joliet has put it into the wording of their annexation that without a bridge over Route 53, there will be no building permits issued for the project. I say again, without a bridge over Route 53, there will be no building permits issued for this project called North Point. You know, we have all talked about this annexation until we are blue in the face. Why not wait and get our road systems into much better shape, and then they could handle some of this project? Let's get the Hobolt Bridge built, get I-80 improved, and work in all the much-needed infrastructure. That will give our great trade unions the much-needed work that they can use, and in the meantime, they can also be working on warehouses in Center Point, which is only approximately 50% built out. Plus, there are some other sites that are already zoned for this. We must stop now. We must stop putting the cart in front of the horse. We cannot fix the old problems by creating new, bigger problems. So I ask you, please slow down and think about your neighboring communities. Let democracy prevail and let the people be heard. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Mayor, there is one more gentleman, an interested party, who was here, and he was overlooked in the initial group, so we'll hear from one more interested party speaker. Sir, in the hall, come on in.
Is this the last interested party? Okay. Go ahead, sir.
Somebody gonna swear me in?
Yeah. You swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Pardon?
Do you swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do. Okay, thank you for allowing me to present my opposition.
Give me your name.
Nothing stays the same.
Eric, do we have his name? We don't have his name for the record.
Once the earth is moved and cement paved, the earth is unusable again for agriculture. 40 years ago, we thought shopping malls were the ultimate. Now they're closing. I'm 90 now, and when I would walk to school in the 30s, we had to watch out for what we called horse apples along the road. Now, we ride buses. In the 50s and 60s, on a good day, we planted 40 acres of grain. Now, 240 acres planted is normal, planted in a comfortable cab with GPS to keep our roads straight. In the early 40s, Joliet went to Washington and lobbied for government contracts. They got one from the Army, and 36,000 acres plus 400 families had to move in 6 months with no options or hearing. After the war in Korea and Vietnam, and Congress moved to close the arsenal. Our Congressman George Sangmeister had the Army clean up the arsenal and got the U.S. Forestry to use 1,800 acres for Midway, a conservation piece and a Midwest attraction. Also, the Abraham Lincoln Veterans Cemetery came and the garbage facility for Will County. Elwood and Wilmington were given also some plots. Elwood had a border with Joliet, and when the time came to renew our boundaries, Joliet refused to meet and renew the border. At one of the meetings, Elwood representative was reprimanded by Joliet for allowing the railroad facility in. Elwood turned North Point down, so Joliet apparently gobbled it up. So visitors may always appreciate Midway, plus all of the scenery and places for fishing and water sports and all other activities along the river, all the way to Morris and beyond. And of course, the veterans will be using the cemetery for their purposes. Do we sacrifice this fine area for trucks and trains, who also will surely eventually be replaced, as was the stagecoach and the wagons? I would remind, as long as the time had been going pretty well for other people, if you have consulted Milwaukee, Wisconsin about the Foxconn process, they were promised, it was supposed to be the eighth wonder of the world by the president. And this last time he appeared there, he didn't mention Foxconn at all, because they fell far short of they were going to make a bunch of sun plates or whatever. And now I guess they've got a small contract to make some screens for telephones. So anyhow, I know you guys are getting tired, so am I, and I'll close with this passage. We did not inherit this land from our ancestors. We are borrowing it from our children. Thank you.
Thank you.
And can we get your name, sir, really quick?
Sir, have your name, please, for the record? Your name for the record, please?
Your name?
Heinz Suing from Elwood, Illinois.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Chris, Sabrina, what do we have now?
That's the close of the interested parties portion. The petitioner has asked for an opportunity to briefly respond.
As long as it's brief, yeah.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Tom Osterberger. I'm not sure I swore in before, so I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but truth. So help me God. There had been a request maybe to respond to those interested parties since their time was, the issues they raised were extensive. But given the time and that we have callers, if we could speak at the end, it might actually be more helpful.
That's fine. We're gonna stop the meeting at this point then, and reconvene tomorrow. So we're done, for the record, we're done with the interested parties. Everyone from here on out will be on the 4-minute time limit. Is that correct?
Everyone going forward will be under the traditional public speaking rules.
Okay. Does 4 o'clock work tomorrow? Sure.
I will be here at 4:30, 4:45.
Okay. So let's be at 5, we can start.
We would need a motion to continue the meeting to 4 p.m. on December 16th. Motion and seconded to continue the meeting to tomorrow, which is December 16th, 2020 at 4 p.m. Councilwoman Reardon?
Aye.
Councilman Turk?
Aye.
Councilwoman Gavin? Aye. Councilman Todd?
Aye?
Councilman Landy? Councilman Morris?
Aye.
Councilman Mudrin? Councilwoman Coleman?
Aye.
Motion carried.
Hey,